quality. FCA Stellantis received numerous violations. The One of the last ones that they got in November was one that was pretty egregious, which was a violation of special condition 4 of a permit to install a RTO, which is a regenerative thermal oxidizer. So that the failure to install that RTO resulted in the duct to fail, and so there's a section of the painting process located after they do the prime spray booth and before the vehicle enters the oven. This is called a EU primer, and I'm not a engineer at all, but I've kind of learned things over the past couple years, but it's called the EU PRIMERWEST ambient flash zone, and it's not ducted to the RTO, but instead is routed directly to the exhaust stack. So the violation pertains to the failure to install the ducting equipment, which resulted in no connection to the regenerative thermal oxidizer. And then, so the current ducting is connected to the exhaust stack, which in essence is poisoning the air of the residents, in that surrounding area of the facility. So, and this is documented with Eagle. So the District 4 residents have been, exposed to this air poisoning for over 2 years now. The Stellantis has been given, direction to get this equipment installed. However, that's going to be upwards of 8 months. So now I have a list of the items that the residents are requesting. So there are some residents who would choose to leave the community, and then there are others for a number of factors. One of the biggest ones being, legacy, because these are legacy homes and that have been passed down from, great grandparents, grandparents, and parents that have, a lot of significance to residents. So so those are some of the people that would like to stay. But for those who would like to choose to leave the community, they would like to have home buyouts at fair market value, or neighborhood home swaps with the DLBA rehabbed and ready homes. And then for those residents who choose to remain, they're requesting that their homes be retrofitted to handle the pollution, and that would entail like air filters, air monitors, new windows. This precedence, well, not a precedence, but these things have been done in the Del Rey neighborhood when they had the issue with Marathon Oil. And then also there's a request for a health study to be performed, by an independent third party to accurately assess the impact of the air pollution that's been caused by, the issues with the FCA Stellantis plant. And then they'd also request that money be allocated for the public health fund, specifically for the air quality, the air pollution health issue that's been caused by the FCA Stellantis violations.
So one of the most aggravating things about this project is the city of Detroit was responsible for nearly everything. We're responsible for the traffic. We're responsible for the water management. We're responsible for the noise and the like. Under federal and state law, the one thing we are not responsible for are the decisions relative to air quality. Under federal law, the EPA and EGLE are solely responsible. The EGLE issued the original permit. I've got serious questions about the terms of the permit for the plan in Detroit versus the plan in Warren. I'm not sure that was done equitably to start with. And I don't feel good at all about their enforcement. Our problem has been by federal and state law, I've got no authority over any of it. I can't find them. I can't make them do anything. And so if there is something that you think I can do with state government to make them more responsive, I'm glad to do this, but unfortunately the air quality is one thing where I can't do very much. If there's an interest in air quality health monitoring, I can see if we can't do something out of the health department. We do have air quality measures in other parts of the city that are conducted by the health department, and we can do that. I don't understand why EGLE has not been able to get a new plant to comply with well-known air pollution laws. I don't understand it at all, but nobody's asked me to get engaged in it. And so I'm not sure who's interacting with EGLE and if there's something that you want me to do, but anything related to air quality is a state issue, and I'll help you with the state. And if you want measurements, I'll be glad to talk to the health department about a monitoring station that we would set up that we have in some other areas of the city. But as far as the other things, those are really state issues. And does the state told you why this is happening and when it's going to end?
We haven't gotten a satisfactory answer with regard to because when a permit is issued, then they come out and expect to make sure that whatever the permit was issued for has been done properly. They said that was done, but then after all the complaints, the equipment was never installed, and we have not got a sufficient answer as to, number one, how they passed the inspection when the equipment was never.
If you want me to be part of the next meeting with EGLE, I'm glad to do it with our environmental experts and to raise this. I'm just amazed. This is there's nothing complicated about air pollution on a new plant. I'm really amazed that they haven't solved this by now. But you are the first person to talk to me about getting engaged in this. So I felt like the neighbors were getting responsiveness from EGLE, but it sounds like you don't feel like you are.
No, we're not. And no, and let me, just kind of be clear that we do understand that the city is not, responsible for the air quality issue. What we and what the residents have communicated is they would like the city to get involved because of the fact that, the air is being poisoned, and then the things that they're asking for are things that, are under the city's umbrella, like the home swaps and utilizing maybe funds from the HUD disaster relief or ARPA for helping to retrofit the homes of residents for air filters and air monitors and windows and things like that. So we definitely know that there's a huge part of this that, the city, isn't involved in, but we're, asking for items that are under the city's control, and, us being residents that are, essentially being poisoned by the air that's being emitted from the facility.
So I would say that if EGLE has failed to live up to their responsibility on air quality, I think it's entirely appropriate to talk to the state of Michigan about funding these things. But if as the water area, for example, which is our responsibility, we're doing all kinds of retrofits and the like. But I'll look at it, but I would say this, any deficiency on the administration of the air quality permit, the state ought to deal with. But I do like the idea of having our own health monitoring station so we have independent, real-time information on what's going on. So there are some times when the smell can be subjective, but there are a lot of times when there's objective evidence that your air quality monitors can pick up. And if the state doesn't already have an air quality monitoring plan, I'll support you on that. Anything else, though, on the air quality side is really an issue to address with the state. Now, you're fortunate to have state legislators who are in the majority in Lansing, where they weren't 2 months ago. So there may be more opportunity than there was before. But I need to get into this because I really don't understand the history of why Eagle didn't get this done the first time.
No, and neither do we. And as residents of the area, and you know, even there was a meeting in October at Barack Obama Leadership Academy with Eagle, and they were like, you know, we just don't know, you know, how this got past us, and which, you know, that, you know, I don't know, that doesn't make sense. But based on, your willingness to, because if you would, we would definitely want you to get engaged and even help with reaching out to the state about funding for these items that we as residents are requesting, because I mean, at the end of the day, we are being poisoned because now we have proof that the equipment was never installed. So, people were talking about, for some people, like, I'll just be honest, like I live 4 blocks from the plant on Montclair, and I've never smelled anything, but and then there's some people who smell something all the time. But now, and I think some people kind of debunked it, like, why isn't everybody smelling it? And I can't speak to that, the physicalities of it, but now we have proof that that these
I think if the Eagle inspector, I mean, this is the frustrating thing. The city BC department inspects everything except the air quality equipment. That's Eagle. That's the only part that we don't inspect. And so if the Eagle inspectors fail to catch this, I think you've got every right to ask the state to be accountable for that. So I'll be glad to dig into this with you.
Okay.
And see what we can do, because it's been 2 years now, hasn't
it? Yes, it has. So just what do we need to do to partner with you to get help with from the state about these issues that
who's your most knowledgeable person?
You mean as far as like
in your committee, who's the person who knows this stuff the best? Do you have somebody who's really digging into this?
Well, yeah, I know I've been involved in it, and then also working with because I'm also a part of the CAC, and we've been addressing this for years.
So what I'd like is Todd Bettison's on with me. We ought to grab a Ray Scott from the environmental side of BC and come sit down with whoever on your side has this history of the different permits. Because first they said it was fixed, and then they said it wasn't, and they made some repairs, and the repairs didn't work. This is just what I've read in the paper. Nobody's ever actually come in and said, hey, would you get engaged in this? But I need to be up to speed on the ins and outs, and I'm going to sit down with the governor. And of course, does Stephanie Chang still represent your area?
Yes.
Okay, so I think Joe Tate's probably your rep too, right? So first I want to understand what the substance is, and see if there is evidence that the Eagle inspectors missed it, And if there is, then the second question is, what does the state of Michigan do to make it up to you? But I'll come sit in a room with you with all the facts. I'll bring our environmental expert, and we will get up to speed on this.
Okay. Now, what is there, would the city be willing to do home swaps for?
And if the state wants to pay for them, but this is the thing is, if the city had failed to do something, I'd say it's the city's responsibility to make you whole. In this case, the state's failed to do something, and I think it's the state's responsibility to make you whole. And so I want to look at what the evidence is, and then talk to the state about how to do it. But you know, home swaps are significant costs. If the state will pay for it, I think that's fine.
So, and no, now I do definitely understand, you know, the you know, responsibility of the state versus the city. However, we're the residents are, you know, just appealing to your office, you know, as the leader of the city to you know, to see if you would be willing to help, because we're being poisoned by this air, and it's been 2 years. So you know, like, I know it's different. There's a difference between this and the Popeyes restaurants that have been shut down due to the infestation of roaches, but it was a health issue for Detroit residents. So that's kind of how we're appealing now, to see, you know, if you know, you and your administration would be willing to step in, you know, as leaders of the city, because this is a health issue that, you know, we're dealing with. So that's, I just want to that.
What you have said to me today is more than I have heard up until now. So I need to get in and understand it.
Okay.
But I would, in general, if the evidence shows the state didn't do their job, I am going to do everything I can to make the state accountable and the state to handle it appropriately. Whether that, I don't know whether a retrofit of houses blocks this particular odor or not. I just don't know enough sitting here to know that. If it does, then I think it's entirely appropriate to say to the state, okay, here's what we want in terms of air handling systems in houses. But I can't react to it without getting some experts into it. But I think we need to stay focused on the fact, if the city causes the problem, it's our responsibility. If the state causes the problem, I will do everything I can to make sure that the state's accountable for it.
Okay.
And so I'm not giving you a final answer. I'm just telling you how I'm thinking, and I'm going to sit down with you and dig into it, and maybe we'll find solutions as we go.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else on the CAC want to weigh in before we move to the next item?
I just want to state that, Mayor, this is just another case of the incinerator. And you know how many years it took for the state to really do a consent judgment against the incinerator, you know, and with COVID running rampant in the city and increasing, and we're getting these respiratory illnesses in this community, which is making residents more susceptible, you know, to these various illnesses out there, and it becomes the environmental justice issue. And as our leader, we really do need you to support us and, you know, really get with the state on this and say, look, you're putting our residents at danger. Their health, you know, the health impacts alone is something that we just need support on, because we don't need to lose residents. That's the last thing we need to do.
I agree with you 100%. And if you look at what we've done, we just shut down the people who wanted to build a concrete plant 300 feet from neighborhoods. Before that, we had people who wanted to create an asphalt plant on Southfield. Now, I have to give them the opportunity to go through every step in the process. But each time we've turned them down, we've gotten sued and we've won because we've done it carefully. The way I got the incinerator shut down was they were leaving rotting food out, and I ticketed them from BC for the improper storage of garbage on the site finally wrote him so many tickets for the garbage handling because I didn't have the right to ticket the smokestack, the air side, but I had the right to ticket improper storage on the grounds. And finally, they decided that continually dealing with us got to be not worth the hassle. If I can find a legal way to do it, I will do it. I'm just trying to be honest with you on what I can do and what I can't do. But I'm going to dig into this, and I'm going to find what I can do. And I, I'm happy to sit down with Stellantis leadership and say what is going on here. But first, I need to understand what Eagle has done.
Okay. And, we definitely have some information for you. And Jerry King, who's the chairman of the NAC, he has an extensive amount of documentation too. So we can work to get that over to you.
Let's get him in the meeting. I'd like to sit with him. He's the guy who's collected the most. I'd like to sit in the meeting and really get educated.
Okay, absolutely. Okay.